older gentleman come in. He sat down, he took out his newspaper. This is about maybe right before COVID. Took out his newspaper, spent about no less than 4 minutes unfolding his paper, fixing it the right way, putting it down. He ordered a pasta. He spent basically an hour and a half to 2 hours by himself eating, and that was it.
What was he drinking?
It was something simple. I don't remember what it was,
Glass of
but
wine?
maybe it was a glass of wine.
Yeah.
But the point is, that is luxury.
Right.
It's not necessarily the high price point sometimes, but it's the experience. And that's something that stayed with me, and for our readers, that's what I want to also share with them. It's the stories. Now, the items that are costly, we can discuss that, but there's the story behind those items. Why does it cost that much? And I think that's the most important thing, is sharing those messages.
I like that. I definitely like that a lot.
Thank you.
Now, this might vary a little too much from our main topic, but because I've got my fashion director here, et cetera, how do you pick what you do for your fashion shots? How do you know whether, in fact, can both Peters stand up? Because I love the dichotomy of what they're wearing. Both Peter Rivera Jr. and Senior. They're both so right. They both look so fabulous, and yet they're so opposite. So how do you figure that out?
Actually, one of the things No Chaser does is we want to unite cultures and style. During COVID, one thing I noticed is that what we should be talking is not so much what makes us different, because we'll never end that conversation. But instead, if we focus on what we have in common, we can actually have a great conversation. And I think that's what, with all these gentlemen, no matter what your style is, if you're a person of style, then you'll have something to talk about. And everybody that has style will understand the other person. We'll be able to communicate in a way. So in terms of for the readers that we have, this is the story we want to share. Exactly that. You can have a different style, but the core is the same. Their core values, the appreciating certain things in life, taste, all these things we share in common. And thus we can have a conversation and share those stories of the two. And we want to share the story of the two, not just one.
I love it, Gare. I want to nominate you for our representative to the UN or something. If we just focus on what we have in common, it would solve a lot of problems. It's very well said. Thank you. We're going to go next to Lenny. Lenny, as you know from Guy's introduction, is a tailor to the stars. He will never say that. He is a very humble man, and he'll usually just say, I'm a tailor. And I think that's all that you need to say, but his work is magnificent, his clientele speaks for itself. Lenny, the question to you is, and to everyone, how do you nurture the sale and upsell your customer to the luxury fabrics like Vicuna and et cetera, et cetera?
Well, actually, I do not upsell to Vicuna. I charge a lot for my suits already, so it's a given that it's supposed to be a luxury suit. And I just get the feedback from my clients. If they're looking for something a little bit more expensive, a little bit more luxurious, I'll show it to them. But I mean, if I use Barberos fabric, it's given that it's a good cloth, and it's as simple as that. And as long as it's a good cloth, then it turns out to be luxury. But I agree with Gare. He pretty much said exactly what I say. I'll give you an example. I had a client in '91 when I first moved over here. He came in with his secretary, and the conversation was with him and his secretary. I said to the guy, what are you looking for? And he turned to his secretary and said, I would like a blue striped suit. Tell Lenny I would like a blue striped suit. So I got some blues. What do you think of this, Louis? He said, it's a bitsy. Tell him I like it, but I like it a little bit wide. He wouldn't speak to me directly. He had so much money, he was afraid that all I was after was his cash. And so he didn't trust anybody. Eventually he invited me to his home, and because we got to certain trust. And he has on his own island between the forks of Long Island, and he does this traditional English shooting where everybody dresses up with their breeks and everything else. And he picked a very soft cashmere jacket in for it. He said, I'll have a shooting suit out of this. I said, Louis, you know, you've got a lot of money, but this suit will look like a bag of rags within 2 wears. I mean, it's a waste of money. If you want me to make it, I'll make it. And so he says, oh, okay, I'll pick something else. But now I'm one of the few people in the world that he calls directly. Everybody else comes through a secretary. To him, that is a luxury. It's not that I upsell him, it's the service that I give and the integrity that I offer.
Wow. Do you ever, Lenny, get people who just come to you, like off the street, sounds not the right phrase, but who don't know your clientele and just come to you and say, make me a suit, who are not used to spending that kind of money? Is there a sticker shock? What do you do then?
Well, before my son worked with me, it doesn't work anymore, I never had a website. So to find me was really, really difficult. And when somebody came through the door, they'd already pre-qualified themselves. And often would say, do you know how hard it is to find you? Now I have a website, and it really has been very good. I've got extra business from it, but I do get a lot of tire kickers that can't afford the product. But rarely does somebody walk through the door.
Interesting, very interesting. Okay, we will move on now to Manuel. Manuel, you are known to be, let me quote here, a master of color, patterns, and texture. When it comes to creating custom garments for your customers, what unique sales tactics do you employ in selling your brand of luxury?
Well, thank you for asking me to be here. And I'm really grateful to be sitting among two stars. If you ever been to the Olympics, they always put the center guys on the gold in the middle, and then you got the silver and the bronze. So, I have a passion for what I do. You probably can tell by the way I dress. To me, dressing is an art. And when I'm sitting with clients, or whoever it is, I always try to listen, then ask questions. So I think if you're going to be selling luxury items, you got to be a good listener. You have to ask questions. You got to be sort of like a storyteller, as our friends say here. You got to tell the story. And believe me, every garment that we do, I have a story for it, and I have facts to back it up. You have to establish certain kind of credibility. If you don't have one, get you one. Get your freaking diploma or something. I show high quality materials with high craftsmanship in a very unique style. And what separates us from the masses, and you look around, all my friends dress nice, no disrespect. I mean, he looks like a money maker, and he looks like a movie star from yesterday. He could have done the movie Chap. My buddy here, going back to the 70s, the turtleneck and whatnot, and of course Peter Roberti, very fashionable young guy. But they all dress nice. But what separates you from the pack? And I think you can see here today what separates me from the pack. I use color, I use patterns and patterns. And my inspiration was many years ago, I was fortunate enough to represent US of A at the World Congress Show in Paris, and love art. So I went to the d'Orsay Museum, the Louvre, and I saw some of the incredible art, Monet, and I look at the colors. Like one of my favorites, water lilies. And they had the greens and they had the lemons. So I said, can I do that in the clothes? And later on, I, of course, always thought that the Duke of Windsor was one of the best dressed men of his era. And perhaps still is the best. But did you know there were casual clothes back then? But the casual clothes that he would wear, it was patterns on patterns and color. And you Google the outfits. So then I learned how to do that years ago. Now, when I'm sitting with a client, I think that to sell them something that don't need is not good. So by listening to them, I'll give you an example. So a client of mine is going to take delivery of a $20 million job. And he sit down with the people to design it, make it the way he wanted to be made. It's going to deliver it the key was in 3 months. So I said, Mr. So-and-so, have you thought about what you're going to wear? I mean, it's a very special day. I said, they're still breaking the champagne. He said, yeah. He said, I don't know. I said, can you help me? You hear me what I say? Can you help me? I don't consider myself a salesman. I consider myself solving problems for my clients. I say, of course I can help you. Let me share something with you. I want to share about this special animal that grows up in the Andes. It's called vicuña. It cannot be domesticated because if you domesticate it, it won't eat, and he dies. And they only get here once a year, and only produce 200 grams of that wool. A kilo costs more than Coke. $600 a kilo, Google it. And it's very rare. During the pandemic, they had to stop. So I got a limited production on my hands. Let me share to you these two colors here, these three colors, and let's pick out 2 or 3. Even though you have all the money in the world, sometimes you can't get this. He said, you're gonna have to get it for me, because that's what I wanna wear. I said, okay, I'm gonna do my best. And I did my best. Now he's happy. I didn't upsell him. He sold himself. I just sold his products. And you gotta create a unique look. If you don't have a look, get your look. You know, everybody is wearing those soft shoulder coats. Every single one of you. That's fine, but it's got its place. Martinez, it's got a little different. I don't know if I answered your question.
No, you did, you very well answered.
But, I mean, you gotta create that, there's kind of like a limited edition, always very unique in whatever you do. Be unique, be authentic, and you will have those clients.
Thank you,
Thank
Manuel.
you.
Very well said. I'm gonna hand it over to Peter Senior and Junior Roberti. And the question as it reads, which is basically what I'm asking everyone. Adrian Jules is known for their excellent craftsmanship, both in design and garment construction. Can you share with us your philosophy on how to sell luxury items? Peter Senior has been in business 52 years, I believe I have that right, and Peter Junior, not so many. So, but I'm really curious, I've been to this factory and it's fabulous. It's just immaculate, and it has the history on the walls, and I've seen the workers and the attention to detail and how much hand craftsmanship goes into it. So let me hear, how do you grow this business?
So a couple things. I think that when we're talking about selling, how to sell luxury goods, there's 4 components that I believe, or that we believe, that kind of make up getting to the next tier. And I think that it's a combination of 1, having passion, 2, having conviction, confidence, and being obsessed. So I think that, 1, I don't have time to talk about all of them, but I think that there's passion. We've been talking about passion for a while. Passion in this industry will only get you so far. Yes, we all have passion, and yes, we can all sell, the garment that we're currently selling, whether it's $3,000 sport coats or $5,500 sport coats. But if you want to get to the next level where you're selling $25,000 jackets, or you're selling, $40,000 suits, you have to be obsessed with your craft. And to get obsessed with your craft, if there's nobody that's in your inner circle that's has came up to you and saying, like I had somebody the other day, a close family friend, said, Pete, when you're opening up 2 more stores, when is enough going to be enough? So if you're not operating, and so no one's saying that to you yet, you're not obsessed with your product. So you have to be obsessed with the fabric. So if we're talking about a Gladson, and one thing that I would encourage everyone to do is to go, either if you have the opportunity to go visit the mills. Like, that's part of being obsessed. Like, if you want to sell the most expensive garment or that top tier, you have to know everything there is to know about the fabric. Like, you need to be meeting and spending time with guys like the people from here up at this panel, or guys like Guy, or people that are in the industry that have stories. This is how you create stories. This is how you sell the product. When we're talking about being obsessed with your product or the garment that you're selling.
So a lot of times, we'll talk a little bit about the fabric, and with the vicuña fabric, it was brought to my attention is that they run wild. You got to catch the animal, you shear it from here to here, and you got to let it go within 2 minutes, or else the animal gets nervous and it affects the fibers. Now you tell that to one of your clients, they're like, oh, never knew that before. You know, all of a sudden it tells a story, and, you know, another story is that I have two good clients, friends of mine. One owns a Chevy dealership, or Cadillac dealership, and the other one, they're best friends, and he drives a Mercedes, and he owns a collision shop. And the gentleman at the Chevy dealership says, you know, the guys came down from Cadillac and says, why doesn't your best friend drive Cadillacs? And how come he doesn't? So they go over to his shop and he goes, oh, I'll tell you why. Puts the cars up on the lift and he says, you see that? That's got a, you know, 1/4-inch tie rod. The Mercedes has a 1/2-inch tie rod. If and when I get in a car accident, it makes a difference, I'll live. And it's like the guts of your garment, what you don't see from the fabrics and the lining, the canvases and everything. You guys gotta go to your manufacturer and find out how they make these garments so that you have your stories.
You got the evidence that justifies the garment that you're selling. So if people question you and people challenge you of why your garment is what it is, you have the story, you have the evidence.
And you believe in your product, and you believe in, you know, it really comes down to how much and how deeply you believe that that's a good value.
100%. Everyone could say, I believe in my product, but how deep do you believe in it? How much time, like, you know, if I could show a raise of hands, like how many people have toured their factory or toured the mills in Italy? Has people done that? Okay, so people have done that. So the question is, well, the ones that are not raising their hands, why haven't we done that yet? I mean, if we want to sell at the top tier, if you want to sell the top tier product and top tier fabric, you have to be obsessed. You have to go to the mills, you have to go to the factories. That is what's going to separate you from everyone else. And by doing that, you get the stories. We talked, Manuel and everybody said, stories sell the product. You have to go and do these and get the evidence through these stories and create these stories. Like that's how you create stories. It's going and spending the money to view these mills and to view these factories.
Very well said. Thank you. Mark, I think
Howdy.
it's you. Mark has a 3,000
Boy.
square foot store in Providence, Rhode Island, and he is an amazing merchant. I've traveled with him and been in his store, and I think he's got some good stories to tell. So just give us some secrets, Mark. What's made you successful?
Well, I don't know about all you, but I'm amped up now. I have this little cell phone there, and it records a lot of what I say. And right now, with my assistant, my virtual assistant, is already saying, "Book your next trip to the mill." All right. So, Guy, VBC, okay? Let's get on it. All right. You know, Guy. Okay. So, my background, as Guy and Karen mentioned in the very beginning, is I started out as a personal clothier, and I worked in Manhattan for about 14 years. And when I first started, like many of you, I started out at kind of that mid-price range of clothing. Now, I'll date myself because a lot of you young people don't understand what it's like to rough it both ways up and down the subway, station and whatnot. But in 1993, when I really first started getting into this business, I was selling shirts for $150. Now, many of you would say, well, that's pretty expensive. Because shirts nowadays you can have made all over the world, and you can sell a shirt for $150. And I said to myself, gosh, this is a lot of money back then. However, what are the real business executives wearing? Because when I started in the business, it was still, people were wearing suits every single day. And it was really a fun time to be in this business because it was much easier in a certain respect. 1993 was when the first World Trade Center was attacked, and they started putting security in. So, not every building had it. So literally, I would go into a building, go all the way up to the top, and then I'd work my way down the stairs. And I'd knock on doors. And I'd get an assistant who would look at me, because I was probably 40 pounds thinner, and I was maybe a little cuter because I didn't have this great face. And I stood a little taller than I do now because my belly hangs over it. It's not the best look in clothing, but we use patterns like Manuel says to kind of disguise it. But I would go into the assistant and I would say, "Who's the best dressed guy in this place?" And they would say, "What's his name?" Oh, we'd be cross-eyed look like, what are you talking about here? And I would say, "Listen, I'm going to save this person time and money." Now I know that this person doesn't need to save any money. but he might want to. And I hurt myself in that very moment. Need versus want. Manuel touched on this earlier. I don't have anything that anybody needs. Nobody needs to come to my store and spend $5,000 on a sport jacket. But boy, do they want to. And it's not necessarily just because of me. It's because of how they feel about themselves. I got into this business because I was a short little guy. Really short. When I was in high school, 4'10". Now, as we use girls may say, ooh, that little dude right there. And when I asked out a girl, she goes, oh my God, you're so cute. And I'm like, you know, you got a little shorter. And, you know, my mother was kind of an interior decorator for homes, and she would tell me, you could dress bigger. Your stature can completely change by the way that you dress. And you could dress taller. Now, I'm not tall now. I'm 5'8" on a good day if I stretch in the morning. So, but I learned how to use pattern and certain fabrics that would lift me up. So once I started really getting into it and learning, I said, gosh, I need to learn more. So literally, I would go to a store in New York City and I'd buy a jacket. Now, I knew nothing about construction. Absolutely nothing. Like many of us do when we first start. We just get into the business because, oh, it's kind of cool. Let's make people look good. Well, isn't that a great feeling? I mean, I know that when a client walks out and that guy looks great, it makes me feel awesome about myself as well. So I started apprenticing, and there was a little tailor on 23rd and 6th Avenue. And it was a Dominican guy. He spoke no English, and I spoke no Spanish. But I would take a jacket in, and literally I would take the sleeves, and I'd cut them off, just with the scissor. And I'm like, okay, make this look good on me. He's like, you know, his translator's like, you're an idiot. You can't do that. You just ruined the jacket. So come in. And he started teaching me a little bit about it. And I started seeing the clientele that would come into his place that really wanted craftsmanship. And craftsmanship is everything to us. Now, Manuel, he's got this shoulder. I've known him now for probably 25, 27 years. And he's had that same look, and it looks crisp and clean and powerful. And he's been able to have his clientele conform to what his vision is. And it's amazing that you can take somebody, like a raw piece of clay, and build them into what it is that you foresee for them. That's our job. Our job is to help them achieve the look that they want and give them the fit that they need, right? Because anybody can throw a garment on you, but boy, if it looks bad, it doesn't matter if it's $30,000 or $300. It's still gonna look like crap. So our job is to get the fit correct, which is when you wanna go see your manufacturer. It's so hugely important. What I did now, after I had an apprenticeship in New York City, and then I bought an existing company in Rhode Island. And this company had a tiny little retail section, had probably about 250 square feet of retail. And I bought this business mostly because he had 3 master tailors. And as many of you know, this is a dying art. You know, Len and I were talking earlier, you know, here's a man who's been in the business for 50 years, and what's his succession plan? His kids aren't in the business. He's got to hopefully find someone that is interested in tailoring, that he can kind of get up to speed a little bit, so that he can eventually take over, she can eventually take over. But I saw the opportunity to provide the same quality or close to quality retail stuff as the custom clothing I was making. I'm like, oh wait, it's a pretty cool symbiotic relationship. And I set on a path, and I went crazy. I spent thousands and thousands of dollars going to Italy, going to factories, watching them manufacture stuff, watching rows of people hand sewing. We don't have that in America anymore. You know, where I live up in Providence, we have Fall River. Okay, Fall River at one point was a mecca of clothing. They make everyone from Polo Ralph Lauren and Nordstrom's and, you know, Alexander Julian, for those of you who remember them. And it was good clothing, but never hand done. And what we do is sell handmade clothing. Now, all of ours may not be bespoke like what Len's is, but the amount of handwork that goes into a lot of our garments, which would be maybe considered more of a made to measure, it's pretty damn good. And if you're selling the lowest aspect of custom made clothing, you're making a mistake, because they're not going to experience anything different than going to a regular store. You are there to give them a want an item that they can't necessarily get on their own. You bring it to them, or they come to you. Now having a store is like the coolest thing in the world for me, because I have trinkets and sweaters and pants and all this stuff that I know is really great material and really great craftsmanship. Hand-done waistbands, hand-done armholes in my coats, hand-attached collars and rotated sleeves on my shirts that really have only gotten done by true craftspeople. So to me, I was able to marry the two of them together in such a way now that a guy will come in and he'll say, listen, I want to get a cat. So now this year we've got these amazing cashmere stretch fabrics. So one of the amazing cloths that guy has called the Luxury Fibers, and it's a stretch cashmere, right? And it's a jacket or a suit, and the guy puts it on and goes, oh my God, I can move. So you remember all the tech fabrics that were big, you know, they're still big, but during COVID, people wanted to say, oh, I can wear my Lululemons. And I can Lululemon out of cashmere. That's cool.
That's cool.
It's a cool factor about it, what we do. And yes, is it more expensive? Sure. Do you know the off-the-rack pant that's ready-made pant? I sell for $12.95, and I sold 32 pairs in a week. That's cool to me because I'm giving them something they're not finding anywhere else. So I'll spend the time and the effort going to these small little factories down in Naples, Italy, that you don't get an invitation to. You just have to kind of knock on a door and say, hey, I'm interested. Can I come see what you do? So there's research. I mean, I couldn't have said it any better. You gotta go to the places. You gotta learn. You can't just rely on a tape measure and a fabric and say, oh, here you go, I'm a tailor. Where none of us are. I mean, except for, you know, Len. You know? So we have to rely on other people's skills. And the way that we do that is to get educated by them and through our manufacturers.
Thank you so much, Mark. I'm going to, at this point, because I have a list of questions, I want to hear your questions. Let me turn it over to the audience for the next 10 minutes. You can either address it to the whole panel and everyone will answer, or you can address it to a specific person. Yes, back there. Guy, do you see it? Thanks.
First of all, thank you all. I was just filling out this notebook, so thank you so much for the great information. My question is, personally for me, I'm starting to get more into selling the luxury, the client, and I know one thing that's really important for them is time, so visiting their office, showing them the best, but what is something in your experience that you've noted when selling luxury to that type of clientele? What's probably one of the biggest things that's most important, you know, consistently with all of those clients? I hope that makes sense.
I can give you a bit of an answer to that. I've often been quoted that 90% of my business is psychology, 10% is tailoring. You need to understand whether you should talk a long time, keep your mouth shut. You have to know your product, and if you can understand that, that's the luxury for the customer, that you understand them. And if you do that, and you know, if somebody wants to sit down and talk, you do it. But sometimes, if you read them properly, then you just show them, let them make the decision, and then come away. If you try and force it, it'll never work.
Excellent answer. Yes.
You know, the way I look at it a lot of times is like, you gotta have trust. And they trust you, and it's up to you to understand, or them to, if you believe in the product or whatever you're trying to sell them, they're gonna understand and believe you, and then that's why they're gonna buy it. But it's up to you to give the trust.
Most men, they believe that they're in a hurry, most of the time. In my case, not to toot my horn because I'm very good at what I do, and I don't just sell one. They know that if I'm there, they're gonna buy more, and they tell me when they come in, I'm in a hurry. I said, well, tell me what you're in a hurry for. And they're going, then they stutter. I said, well, and if I know that they like football, they like golf. When's the last time you played golf? I play this, how was it? I get them to talk about what they like. You saw how much time my friend took, right? He was talking about what he loved and liked and then you realize that was BS, that they have time for it. God, as my friend said, you gotta listen to them, and once they talk about what they like, you can have them there or offer them a little fine wine or scotch that we do in our place, or whatever they drink, and they'll mellow out, and then you continue, go ahead.
The last thing, then I'll sit down. How do you find the balance of talking? For me, I'll touch on like, oh, I like this, but they're not there to listen to what my favorite things are. It's my goal to listen and to offer them what's best for them. So how do you find that balance of, you know, talking about what you like and then turning it to them? Because I don't want to talk about me. I want to listen to them, but ask those probing questions to get a response to then present something else to them. So I don't want to talk about me the whole time because that's boring to the client.
You don't want to talk about you at all. When I go into a client's home or their office, while they're talking to me, I'm looking around at the photographs, all the things they've got there. You've got children, how many have you got? You know, where do they go to school? Oh, you see, you like to play golf, you like to shoot, and get them talking about themselves and relaxing. Everybody likes to talk about themselves. And you're learning about the client at the same time. Push it and you will lose.
Thank you.
I have a little different thought on that. You're an expert at what you do. People who are great at what they do appreciate experts at what they do. So the fact that you feel he doesn't want to know what you like, you wouldn't be sitting in his office if he didn't respect what you do.
Yeah.
So allow yourself to acknowledge that you're, sounds good, you're good enough to be there. You're there for a reason.
Yeah.
The listening is crucial. It's 90% shut up, 10% interject. Like, give what you need to give him so that he hears what he wants.
Thank you.
Well said. Thank you. Questions to anyone? No? Okay, then you're gonna have to suffer with a few, oh, right, oh, okay, in the back.
Thank you all for being here. My question is, as someone new to getting into luxury, what are some of the best ways to get your foot in the door with some of these higher end customers when you yourself are just starting out? Is it just knocking on a lot of doors or just kind of being consistent and wait for them to show up?
Number one, if you're getting to the real luxury market, selling garments above 5,000, 10,000, like some of us do here, it's gonna be very tough for you to come on the phone. You gotta place yourself where these people go. They might belong to the symphony, they might belong to the certain country club, they might to the jive club, whatever it is, you gotta place yourself there. And oftentimes, there are charity events that these people fund and they attend. So you wanna be there or donate something to the charity. I'll give you an example. In Washington DC, the Mystic crew of Mardi Gras asked me to design the ties for the 75th year anniversary. And I was glad they picked me. Immediately, they sent emails to 4,000 people, wealthy people. It's exposure. And then the king of Mardi Gras this past 2 weeks, it was Drew Brees. When I found out that was gonna be the king, I ran to my friends at Glass and I said, look, I want to design a fabric that stays called Mardi Gras fabric, if there's such a thing. If you've been to Mardi Gras in New Orleans, you know this. It gets a little wild.
Blackout fabric.
So my inspiration was from the black watch. I kept the green, I put the, instead of the black, I put the purple, and then it go with the paint. And it was very tasteful. And my friends at Glassman, they busted behind to get it done for me in a limited amount of time. Just 3 yards, very exclusive. Remember I said exclusivity is very important. And I presented to Drew Brees. Now, the people that were there that I've been trying to get before over the years came up to me, when can we get together? All of a sudden, I'm not chasing them. And these people, they've been chased by everybody. The best thing you can do is place yourself where they are. And get this, dress sharp, they get to see you. Some people said, man, I see you here all the time, and I don't know, who are you? You invite them. You want to invite people. By dressing the way I dress, I invite people to come to me. I hope that helps you.
Thank you.
Anyone else on the panel? Yes.
Manuel mentioned something about country clubs. I love golf. Now, I suck at golf, but I look like I know what I'm doing, okay? And I joined a club that was above my means, purposely so I could be around the people that I wanted to meet. Not in a salesman's position, but in a cohort or colleague or friendship way. Because, listen, in golf, there's a rule. If you're not good, play fast, so that you can keep the game going. Even when guys that I'm playing are super good and I'm not, I keep up with them. And it allows me to have something to talk to. I'm with that guy for 4 hours, right? I look at what we do, all of us, what we do is, we're sharpshooters in the Marines. Okay, we're not infantry people. We're not spraying machine gun bullets. We're sharpshooting that one person. So you will find that person you want, go after them. You know, do you ever watch Wall Street, the movie, the original one? How did Gus go get the guy? He sent him the box of cigars. I'm not saying to spend $500 on a lead, but do something that differentiates yourself. Make it exclusive, like what Manuel said.
I was gonna say, I think that, for me, it always comes back to the story. I think that even, and maybe these gentlemen, maybe you guys agree or disagree, you'll tell me, I think that you have to create the story. There are different ways to sell the luxury product. First of all, I think that luxury customer is not on social media so as much, number one. However, I'll tell you a quick story. There was a tailor, he came to me, he said, okay, what should I do? I need to get, people don't know me. I said, you know what, don't create a website because it's a tailored garment. You're not a shop. Just do it on social media. Create a story that represents what you want. What he did is created that story. Eventually, about 3-4 months later, somebody just randomly reached out to him from another country and said, I'm coming to New York, I need 10 suits made, can I have them made through you? Because he told a story. So reaching out to people is one thing, to sell them what you want to sell them, but if you don't have a story yourself, why are they going to connect? Because I think that's ultimately, anybody who buys garments from any of these gentlemen, they're buying a piece of their soul. It's almost as if you're buying the blood from their blood and sweat. That's what they appreciate from these gentlemen, I think. And that's what you need to show them. You have to create that story for yourself first. And then with that, I think you can continue and move towards that client. Because once again, the client's going to look at you, he's going to understand, he's going to want it, he doesn't have time to spend, but he'll spend it with you. And that's the goal.
Does that answer your question?
Absolutely, thank you so much.
Great, great. I'm wondering, panel, are events helpful, trunk show type things, or are there any special events that generate traffic in the store or generate business?
Yeah, we do, and Dad, you can add on to this too. So basically, every Saturday, we have some type of event or tasting at our showroom. So in our showroom, we have a lounge area, and what we do is, in the lounge area, we tap into clients. Like for example, we had a contest on who had the best donut in Rochester. So we had blind. It was basically like a blind tasting that people. It was so. I don't want to say stupid, but it was so easy, but it was just, people had so much fun doing it, because they got to taste these 3 different donuts, and then they got to vote. There was people interacting on it. Then they said, oh, I knew this was Ridge Donut, or I knew this was, whatever it was. So it was a ton of fun. So we do events that actually, or tastings that actually don't even have anything to do with clothing. So, and it creates such a great atmosphere in our showroom.
And we do another big car event at our place, and it's for Gigi's Playhouse there. It's probably 120, 125 cars, and it's a fundraiser. But the last few years we've raised over $60,000, $70,000 each year. But it's really giving back to the community and really caring about your community and what you do for it. I mean, you can take, but that's not going to help you in the long run. You got to understand that you got to give back, and we give back a lot. My brother and our accountants, Peter and I, say, you guys are giving back. And it's like, no, we're never giving back too much, because the community's really helped us live the lives we got. And everybody here is going to say the same thing. It's really, and you guys also, everybody, it's really what you give back to your community and what you can do out for other people and treat them with respect. And it's really important to make sure that you really treat others like you want to be treated?
One of the things that we do, because we have a store, that's my wife calling me to tell me to shut up. One of the things that we do that is unique and different for us is we started doing women's only events. Now, we're a men's store, okay? Men's clothiers, men's store, no women's anything. But what we've realized is that women spend 80% of their dollars shopping. That's what the analysis is. And they're the buying power. Even though men come in by themselves, we want women to come in, not necessarily to buy our product, but just to give them the experience of what our space provides them. So I have an event coming up in a few weeks that's designated only to women. It's 2 local jewelry designers making custom pieces right then and there. They're bringing, their soldering guns and their grinding tools, and it's all beautiful 14 karat gold and up jewels. But it's at a price point that's not ridiculous. So it's $2,000 to $20,000. Now you say, well, that's $20,000 is a lot of money. It is, but when someone sees something that they want, they're gonna buy it. They might not buy it that moment, but they're gonna work and they're gonna save towards it, and they're going to try to earn the money to get what they want. And doing stuff like this to me is, again, not to have the women buy for their men, but to say to their husbands or boyfriends, gosh, that store is really cool, you should go in there. They got a whole bar, go have a drink with the guys, I think you're really gonna like it. So it's a little bit, we try to take a different approach to not have it be anything about guys, and just try to, structure it towards, their partners.
Yeah, I've got something else. I kind of fly underneath the radar. I don't have a front shop. I'm up on the 4th floor. I used to be above a burger joint that's just closed down. You have to work hard to find me. And everything's made by hand, so people come in for a different experience. But I do 2 shows every year, and they're both hunting shows. One in Dallas, and now the other one's just moved in for Nashville. I flew in from it yesterday just for this panel. These guys spend $500,000 on their hunts in Africa. They'll spend $150,000 on a shotgun, and they buy 2 at a time. So this client is my client. So I go there, I take a booth, and for a number of years, I will watch the people walk past, man and wife. The guys are only interested in their hunts and their guns. They're not interested in the clothes. So I started doing ladies' clothes. Just hung them out the front, and cashmere, something that would catch their attention. Business went up about 30% the first year, not from ladies' clothes, but because the men came in. And I started them off in their tweed hunting clothes, and it then gave me an opportunity to move them into their business suits and their casual wear, which is actually where I made the money. So I agree with Mark, if you can do something that attracts the women will bring the husband. And in fact, Bruce Boyer used to say that something like 70 or 80% of men have their clothes made by women, picked by their husband. 80% of husbands have their clothes picked by their wives or girlfriends, so.
I think that's probably still true.
Yeah.
Question last, we're winding down. I thank you guys, this was rather an amazing panel. I think if the panel can stay for another 5 minutes and anyone has individual questions, feel free. Otherwise, same time next year, we will do something like this again, and hopefully you'll be on this side of the panel.
Yeah, real quick, what I'd like to say is thank you to Gladson and Guy, and Karen, thank you for everything for you guys.
Because I gotta thank you. I know some of you came and you came just for this. You guys probably could have stayed there and made $100,000. So thank you very much. Karen, as always.
We'll expect a discount.
The shout out to Faith Wozniak, our director back there. And also to Heather Kaufman. Thank you all. Thank you all for coming. I hope it was worth it. Thank you.